Let's go Dolphins! What I'm about to tell you could change the course of this franchise for years to come. We're talking about the potential loss of one of the most important pieces behind the team's rise at the end of the season. And believe me, if this actually happens, it won't just be painful, it could ruin everything we've built. Before I reveal exactly what's happening and why every Dolphins fan needs to pay attention, do me a small favor. If you're watching this and you're a true fan of the blue and orange, through thick and thin, click the like button right now. Show your support and let YouTube know this community is alive and well. And please leave a comment below saying, "Go Dolphins!" We need to protect our future, because after hearing what I'm about to explain, you'll understand why this moment is more important than ever. Let's get right into it. One of the biggest stories swirling around the Dolphins right now is the growing possibility that defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver could be poached in the upcoming offseason. Weaver has quietly become one of the most talked about names in NFL coaching circles. His name is popping up on head coaching candidate lists across the league, from Diana Rossini's recent article on The Athletic to mentions by Dan Graziano, Jeremy Fowler, and Albert Breer. This isn't just smoke. There's a full-on fire building around Weaver's head coaching potential. Weaver interviewed for both the Bears and Saints jobs last year, and after what he's accomplished with the Dolphins defense since Week 11, it's no wonder he's back in the spotlight. Let's talk numbers, because they don't lie. In the last 4 games alone, Weaver's defense is allowing just 13.25 points per game. That's 53 points total. We're talking about only 207 passing yards allowed per game, just over 101 rushing yards, 6 interceptions, 4 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries, and 14 sacks. Opponents are converting third downs at only 30.8%, and the red zone success rate against this defense is just 22%. That's the number 1 red zone defense in the entire NFL during that stretch. And it's not just about the stats. It's the transformation. Let's not kid ourselves. Weaver's unit struggled early this season, particularly against the run. But now, they're playing like the dominant defense we all expected to see from day one. If this version of the defense had shown up at the start of the season, this team might already be staring down 9 or 10 wins. We wouldn't have dropped those games against Carolina, the Chargers, or New England. It's that impactful. This is why Weaver's potential departure stings. If he leaves, sure, we get 2 third-round compensatory picks. But at what cost? Finding another needle in the haystack like Weaver is no guarantee. We've been down this road before, right? The Fangio experiment didn't work out the way we hoped. And now, just when it feels like the defense is rounding into elite form, we might be forced to start over again. There's talk about possibly promoting from within. Maybe Austin Clark steps up, or we go hunting for another experienced defensive mind. Maybe someone who gets let go elsewhere, like Dan Quinn if things fall apart in Washington. But none of those are sure things. And here's what might hurt the most. If Weaver goes on to become a successful head coach somewhere else, and the Dolphins stay stuck in that cycle of mediocrity, that's the real fear. That's the painful part. It's not just losing a coordinator. It's watching the one guy who helped fix your defense lead another team to glory. For those of us who've been backing Anthony Weaver, it's been a journey. Early in the season, people were in my DMs, questioning him, criticizing the slow start. Now, crickets. All those critics have gone silent. Weaver has earned this spotlight, and the scary thing is, he might actually get the job somewhere else and succeed, big time. Now, let me take it a step further. Weaver isn't just a great coach. He might be that perfect blend between Mike McDaniel's offensive genius and Brian Flores' defensive toughness. He connects with players, has that no-nonsense attitude when it's time to get serious, and brings that former player perspective. If the Dolphins ever had to pivot in the future, there's a legitimate argument that Weaver could have been the man to lead the whole team. That's how highly some in the building regard him. And this isn't the only coaching talent we might lose. Frank Smith, Miami's offensive coordinator, was also listed among Albert Breer's top 42 head coaching candidates. While Weaver is seen as more likely to land a top job, Smith's name is gaining traction too. The league is paying attention to how he and McDaniel have built an elite offense, even with limited resources. But coaching turnover isn't our only challenge. The Dolphins' front office structure is shifting, and that raises even more questions. Brendan Shore, Miami's cap chief, is reportedly taking on a larger role in a new 3-headed monster leadership model that mirrors what the Rams and Lions have. That setup would see the head coach, GM, and cap chief all reporting directly to owner Stephen Ross, or more likely, his successor. And here's where it gets interesting. Dan Silman, Ross's son-in-law, is becoming increasingly involved in the team's day-to-day operations. This is the guy whose background is selling broadcast rights for UEFA soccer, not football operations. Yet, we've seen his name linked to major decisions in the past, especially during the recent GM shakeup. It's very possible that when Ross eventually hands over control, Silman could be calling the shots, or at least heavily influencing the ones that matter most. Is that what we want? The uncertainty is real. Will the next GM be a figurehead under a new ownership structure where Shore and Silman pull strings? And what does that mean for Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa? According to Albert Breer, they might both be on a 1-year test drive under this setup. If things don't go well next year, the entire regime could be overhauled in 2026 or 2027. That's a short leash, and it puts pressure on everyone to deliver results now. Because if we're not prepared, this could set us back, big time. Losing Anthony Weaver wouldn't just be a coaching shuffle, it could unravel everything this defense has built in the second half of the season. That continuity, that chemistry, that identity we've seen emerge over the past month, it doesn't just magically transfer to the next guy. You can't plug and play leadership at this level, especially not someone who's earned the locker room's respect and is clearly making game-changing adjustments week in and week out. And this becomes even more complicated when we factor in the front office dynamics. Like I mentioned earlier, Brendan Shore is being groomed for a larger role, and Dan Silman's fingerprints are starting to show up everywhere. This isn't some wild speculation, it's already happening. Silman's involvement in discussions that went beyond the GM's desk was reported even before Chris Greer was dismissed. And now, he's positioning himself as a key decision-maker in the franchise's future. Here's what should concern fans. Does Dan Silman have the football mind to truly build a winning organization? His background is in European sports marketing, not scouting or player evaluation. Are we trusting a former UEFA rights salesman to weigh in on which assistant coaches should be hired or which GM should get the final say on draft night? That should raise some eyebrows. And what about Mike McDaniel's future? It's hard to ignore the underlying tone of these reports. If the Dolphins stumble down the stretch, miss the playoffs, or exit early, you better believe that one-year evaluation window Greer talked about becomes a lot more real. Even with the improvements we've seen, even with the progress this franchise has made under McDaniel, his seat isn't cold. And Tua? He's got 1 year of guaranteed money left. There's already talk about drafting a new quarterback in 2026 or 2027. So we're entering a fragile moment for this franchise. A lot of potential, a lot of hope, but also a lot of cracks forming beneath the surface. And that brings us back to Weaver. If he leaves and things unravel on defense, if the next hire doesn't hit, or worse, the locker room doesn't buy in the same way, we could see this entire season's momentum wasted. This isn't just about stats. This is about culture, about belief, about identity. Let's also not overlook another crucial factor in this equation. If Weaver is hired elsewhere, and he succeeds, what does that say about the Dolphins' decision not to promote him? If, down the road, the team ends up letting go of McDaniel, and Weaver is already a successful head coach on another sideline, fans and critics alike will look back at this moment and ask, did Miami miss their shot at keeping the right guy in the building? Some will argue that Frank Smith deserves his shot too. Sure, he's been instrumental in the offensive success, and his name is starting to generate buzz. But Weaver's unit has been the difference maker lately. This late season surge? It's got his fingerprints all over it. And let's not forget, defense wins championships. If the Dolphins are serious about competing deep into January, Weaver's game plans are going to play just as big a role as anything McDaniel and Tua draw up on the other side. Now imagine this, what if we lose both Weaver and Smith in the same offseason? That's a reality Dolphins fans have to be prepared for. That's a total reset on both sides of the ball in terms of leadership. And when you add in the uncertainty around the general manager, ownership transition, and the possible long-term status of your quarterback, we're talking about a franchise on the brink of either breaking through or breaking down. What's frustrating is that this was supposed to be the season where everything started coming together. The roster is talented. The offense can light up the scoreboard. The defense, finally, looks elite. But in the background, there's this quiet ticking clock. Other teams are circling, watching, waiting. They see what Weaver's doing. They see the offensive creativity, and they're ready to pounce when the season ends. Now, sure, we might end up keeping everyone. Maybe we make a deep playoff run, and everyone decides to run it back for one more year. Maybe Dan Silman stays behind the curtain and doesn't get too involved. Maybe Brendan Shore's expanded role actually helps stabilize things instead of destabilizing them. Maybe the next GM, if needed, is the right fit. But that's a lot of maybes. And let me tell you, maybe is a dangerous place to be when you're a team on the rise. You don't get many windows in the NFL. You don't get many seasons where you have the talent, the health, well, mostly,